declutter video. Today we are going to be tackling all of my more warm tone blushes, so corals, peaches, oranges. So I am in the process of decluttering all of my powder face products, so blush, bronzer, and highlight. In my first video, which was my cool toned blushes, I did kind of walk through my thought process for how I want to approach this, what I'm trying to get my collection down to. So if you're curious at all about my thought process as I'm going through these, I would definitely encourage you to watch the first part of that video so you have a better sense for why I'm thinking about things the way that I am right now. So we're gonna lay all these out by color family first, start swatching them all on my arm, and make some decisions. All right, so we're looking at all of my sort of coral pinky peach blushes. They are ones that have a little bit more of a pink undertone to them than some of my like warmer, more orangey toned blushes there. Actually, let's start here because this is one I think I'm just gonna pass along. So this is a baby NARS Orgasm. I think I got this in a, I don't know, a point perk or a sample pack, just feeling like I needed to have this on hand for comparison purposes. I used to own a full size of NARS Orgasm. I don't anymore, and I have to be honest, I'm less and less enamored with it. I mean, it's pretty enough, but I don't feel like it's like anything super remarkable anymore, and it definitely has larger glitter particle pieces than I prefer. So that's one we can definitely pass. Let's look at this. So this is another e.l.f. Primer Infused Blush. This is in the shade Always Punchy. This is the newest shade that I picked up in this line. Online, I thought this looked a lot more neutral, and it ended up being a very, very vibrant coral pink. And then this is an Essence Matte Touch blush in the shade Peach Me Up. I feel like the formula on these are really nice. That one's a little bit warmer and a little less pink than the e.l.f. one there. And then this is kind of pink a peach. It's also kind of satin. This is Melon Pop from Clinique. I do like this formula. I really am kind of bummed that they are not cruelty free because I do think it's a beautiful formula. So that's a swatch built up there. Oh, let's just keep swatching. This is another Clinique Cheek Pop. This is from the Jonathan Adler collection as well. This is Peach Pop. So Melon Pop and Peach Pop. This one is a little bit more glowy, and it's also a lot more intense. And I know I'm building these swatches up, but it's definitely darker than any of the other ones on my arm so far. This is from Milani. This is one of their powder rose blushes in Blossom Time Rose. This one actually has a bit of a gold shift to it. It's got a little bit more powderiness than I remember. It's definitely got kind of a similar undertone to that Coney Cheek Pop in the sense it's got a bit of a gold pearl running through it, but it's definitely on the lighter side. And then this is from Hourglass. This is one of their ambient lighting blushes in Incandescent Electra. It has one of their powders kind of swirled with a corally color. I do really love this blush. I think it's really pretty, sort of a nice satin finish. And then finally, this is one of my newer blushes. This is from Persona Cosmetics. This is the shade Georgia, and this is kind of a satin. It's not matte. They say matte a little bit on their website, but it's more of a satin, in my opinion, than it is a true matte, because it does have a hint of a sheen to it. These last two I know I want to keep, so I'm trying to decide if there's anything else. So the Incandescent Electroshade from Hourglass leans a little bit pinker coral, and then the one for Persona leaves a little bit more of a warmer sort of peachy coral. So I've got my peachy and my pinky corals kind of down here. Like I said, I've not been wearing a ton of mattes, so I feel like I can pass on this e.l.f. one and probably this Essence one. I'm just not reaching for them. I also don't feel like I'm really using this peachy one from Clinique. This one's a little dark. I want to keep one drugstore in this collection. Just kind of feeling like if I keep these two, I'm kind of covered on this arm. Like if I had a drugstore one that was a lot glowier, I would probably keep it. But this one from Milani is just not that glowy, and when I really swatch it close up next to this one from Hourglass, I'm not really seeing a huge difference in undertone. It may be slightly more gold. I know these three are gone for sure. Milani is gone. Just trying to decide if I want to get a little bit more love out of this Clinique one, but I want to swatch it next to the two that I really I'm passionate about keeping. Yeah, those two are just too similar to warrant keeping. All right, those are my two. All right, so these are my more warm, sort of orangey colored blushes. I like this shade when I am wearing very warm eyes, but I do like a lot of the ones that are here. Let's start with the classic. This is Luminoso from Milani. Like I said, it's pretty orangey. A lot less coral in a shade like this than the ones we were just looking at. But the formula is beautiful. It's a really nice glowy blush. Definitely more on the glowy side than even the satin side. This has been another favorite of mine. This is one of the NYX Away We Glow blushes in Summer Reflection. And you can kind of target specific sections and make them lighter or darker than one another. This one leans a little bit more pinky and a little less orange, which might be why I like it as much as I do. This is a little one I picked up in Korea from Majorca, which is a Japanese brand, but I found it at the drugstore there, and the little floral pattern in there I thought was so pretty. I think the packaging is really pretty. The formula was never like blowing my mind. It was fine, but it was a little powdery. So I feel like in this new world of really trying to cut back on powder blushes, this is probably one I can pass along. So now we come down to two matte blushes. This one is from Bare Minerals. It's their Gin Nude blush in That Peach though. Formula feels so nice. Even though it's got a matte texture, it really is so smoothing. And it's a little more sheer. Maybe that's why I've liked this one. It's just a little bit more of a sheer matte. You can definitely build it up. It gives me a little bit of a stained look as opposed to some of these more pigmented blushes down here. And then this is a little one from Jordana. It's one of their powder blushes in Sweet Honey. And this one is a little bit more of a bright sort of, it's got a little bit more reddish undertone to it there. Probably the most similar to the Away We Glow blush from NYX. So my gut reaction looking at these is that I want to keep these first two. They're nice and glowy. They're both from the drugstore. So Milani Luminoso and the NYX Away We Glow. I'm also really liking this sort of sheer factor from the Bare Minerals Gin Nude one. And I think what I can do is pass on the Jordana and the non-cruelty free sort of Japanese drugstore one I had picked up. All right, so hopefully my sound hasn't been too awful for this video, because I just realized that I think the lav mic that I typically wear while filming just to keep my area around me clean was maybe not functioning. So hopefully the audio wasn't too bad. If not, I'll try and fix it. But since these are the three that I think I want to keep from this section, what I want to do now is actually to go back and swatch the two earlier that I said I wanted to keep, just to make sure that I haven't duplicated them too much. This is the Persona Cosmetics blush in Georgia. These are the three swatches that I've kept. And then the Hourglass blush in Incandescent Electra. Yeah, I think these definitely lean more pinky toned. Both of those are more pinky. I would say this one is probably the closest. The Persona blush is probably the closest to the NYX Wavy Glow blush, but this one's definitely a lot more glowy in my mind, a little more warm toned. So I'm good with keeping all those. All right, so these are all ones that I feel like have a little bit more of a rusty, maybe terracotta type vibe to them. Once again, I might be splitting hairs here and needing to go back and swatch them against a couple of the ones that I've kept so far, but there's definitely some formulas in here that I very, very much enjoy. All right, let's do matte first. So this is a little one from the Creme Shop, which I believe from everything I can find online that they're a cruelty-free brand, but I haven't seen like one of the main groups I follow, like Logical Harmony or Ethical Elephant, etc., post about this brand. So I believe they're cruelty-free, but I don't 100% know for sure. I bought this before I went cruelty-free. This is their Mon Cherie blush in Rose Day. It is kind of a murky brown terracotta color, and part of me feels like this might need to go in my neutrals versus my warm toned blushes, because I definitely feel like that goes a little brown. Yep, I'm gonna move that to neutrals. This is from CoverGirl. This is one of their Peach Punch blushes in the shade, oh, just Peach Punch. This one has a really nice sort of silky texture to it. It has a it's a little bit more lightweight, so it's a little more powdery than some other more heavily pressed blushes. It was actually pretty easy to work with. It actually is sheer to kind of buildable when you're doing it, not with your finger, but with a brush. This guy is matte as well. This is from Wet n Wild. This is Mellow Wine. I believe they have reformulated these, but unfortunately, Wet n Wild is not cruelty-free, so I don't think I will be well, I definitely won't be buying any of the new shades. It definitely has more of a reddish, like I said, reddish wine color. And then we'll go ahead and swatch this one from Cover FX because it kind of transitions from the matte to shiny sort of formulas. This is the shade Soft Peach in their monochromatic blush duo. These, like I said, were sold out for so long, and then when I finally got my hands on them, I was like so excited because you've got a baked gelée formula and then a matte side. This is probably the only shade that I would say works for me because the other shades are just too pigmented. I prefer these actually mixed together than on their own. I find that this baked gelée one is just a hint too metallic for my cheeks. Like I feel like it really shows texture. And so for me, I kind of want to mix these two together in order to kind of get the right blush texture. So I don't know, like I expected to be like gaga for this product, and I'm kind of like, it's fine. This is from Physicians Formula, their Butter Blush in Vintage Rouge. This one has a little bit of a glow to it. It was newer into their collection last year. It's satin leaning glowy. It's fairly pigmented, and it has sort of that same sort of wine undertone the way that the one from Wet n Wild does. This is from Catrice. This is one of their strobing blushes in Mrs. Summer Peach. And I got rid of the other one, so I'm kind of tempted to keep this guy, but I probably am going to need to swatch it against some other things that I've kept as well, because I do really like this sort of satin texture that it has. And then this one may have been put in the wrong place as well. This is from Becca. This is one of a mini of the mineral blush in Flower Child. I like this formula. I don't know if I love this formula, and I feel like this one should have been with my corals, and I feel like I've already kept a shade like that in the form of, I'm gonna guess Incandescent Electra is pretty darn similar here. Maybe it's a little pinker, but it's pretty similar. It's just kind of a deeper version of that. I would like to keep a reddish type blush because I don't feel like I've kept one quite like that yet. I'll be curious to see if there's something like this in my neutrals. I feel like there might be. So for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and pass on Wet n Wild. And I'm going to go ahead and keep the shade that was very similar down here in this Butter Blush. But I'm kind of hoping I can find a cruelty-free version when I get into my neutrals, and we will test and see. And then I'm not super passionate about keeping this little mini Becca one, so I'm going to pass that on. I also think I'm going to pass this Cover FX one on to a friend. I don't get the giddy excitement that I want to get when I reach for this. In terms of these two drugstore ones, I really do like both of them. I think I like the Catrice one better in terms of formula. And I think they're going to be fairly similar. CoverGirl one seems a little bit more powdery. I think I'm going to keep the Catrice one and pass on the CoverGirl one, but I do want to swatch these two to make sure I'm not completely, you know, keeping the same product. So that is a very heavy swatch of Catrice. It's pretty glowy. I don't think even if it's just the same shade, it's going to have the same. Nah, those are different enough that I feel like I'm good keeping both of these. All right, so here are the ones that I am keeping. I am going to only be keeping 7 out of this little grouping. And here are the ones that I am getting rid of. I had been keeping a lot of shades that I just wasn't reaching for and using, and a lot of matte ones in this kind of grouping of warm toned blushes as well. And I'm just not, like I said, reaching for warm toned blushes a ton. And like I said, I'm just not reaching for matte blushes a ton. So I am actually going to be getting rid of 15. So that brings my total to 68% decluttered. And I'm feeling really good at this point. That means I'm only keeping a handful of the ones that I really love, and then passing along the ones to friends and family who I think may get some more use out of these. So that wraps us up for today's declutter. I have one more blush declutter to do, and that is for my neutral blushes. Give me strength, because that is the one that I'm gonna have a hardest time letting go of, because I love boring neutral blushes. They are my jam. I feel like I've done very well for my cool toned and warm toned, and I feel like it's all about to fall apart for the final declutter. Like I said, I am planning on going through all of my blushes one last time at the end of my next video, just to do one final swatch pass to make sure I'm really happy with the ones I'm keeping. But that wraps us up for today's video. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Look forward to chatting with you down in the comments. Bye.